Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Yo Joe Outlet, your only source for G.I. Joe weapons and vehicle accessories. Don't have that incomplete Joe any longer. Connect with Yo Joe Outlet Center and complete that figure for an awesome price. Go check them out on eBay at Yo Joe Outlet Center and Facebook Yo Joe Outlet. Guys, you know I love a good horror movie. And what is the point of a horror movie? It's to scare you. The Fear Footage Part 1 and Part 2 accomplished that exactly. It scared me. It made me jump. And I'm not embarrassed to say, it made me shriek a few times, just like a little child. Guys, go check out thefearfootage.com. If you like found footage movies, forget that. If you like horror movies in general, if you like to be scared, if you like to pull the blanket up over your eyes, go check out The Fear Footage 1 and 2. Order it directly from thefearfootage.com. Blu-rays on sale, or go check them out on Amazon, The Fear Footage. We're doing it again. We're doing yet another LJN. Yet another LJN Wrestling Superstars Revisited episode. Here we go again. You guys are getting these like daily, which is not something I did the first time or since the first time. This is, this is such an opportunity. This quarantine, this virus, this working from home thing is such an opportunity for me to obviously work from home, but more importantly, to make videos with you guys every day, it seems. And so what took probably 6 or 8 months the first time we did it, the LJNs, the LJN reviews, we're getting done in a week or two. And all that means is that we have time soon to get into the bendies, into the thumb wrestlers, into the AWA Remco figures, and what I'm looking forward to again is the WCW Galoobs, or the NWA Galoob figures. My very close second favorite toy line, wrestling line, figure line, figures, wrestling men. We have crossed over into Series 5, the second to last series of LJN figures. And as I look at the examples of the figures that I have, we're starting to get into figures that I never had as a kid. Never had them, never had the pleasure of adding them to my federation. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today is just the figure, because there are no play stories with these guys. There aren't any, because I didn't have them. I didn't have them as a kid. I had one of them, and I'll show you the one that I had. But well, he's in rougher shape than I recall him being. But anyway, I never had these guys. So we're talking 1988 here, guys. We're talking the year before the final series, the year before LJN lost the license, and a few years before really LJN just became a video game company, when LJN and Acclaim teamed up. And I don't know why, I don't know what it was. Obviously it's just business and bankruptcies and things like that. LJN, got into some trouble with the Enertech, I think the name was, these very real looking guns and weapons. There were some stories of cops maybe shooting some kids that had these Enertech weapons that looked real. I don't know, whatever. But maybe LJN caught some heat for that. The Sling 'em Fling 'em ring was recalled around this time after a child fell on it and got impaled by one of the posts. And so you recall the Jack's Monster ring had little round plates molded onto the post. I guess limiting the potential impalement of those turnbuckle posts. But anyway, LJN starts going downhill around this time, and you know, it's going to be sad when we talk about the '89 figures, and maybe it wasn't as sad when I first talked about them the first time around. Maybe I didn't, you know, pay much attention to the emotions connected with the end of LJN, but I think we will this time. So we are up to Series 5 here, and we're going to do it in 2 parts. And we're going to start with the figure that I had as a kid and used plenty as a kid. You know, I was familiar with this guy to a degree prior to him coming to the WWF due to the information in wrestling magazines. That's really the only way. The UWF and Mid-South wrestling was not available on television in my area. Upstate New York did not get Mid-South Championship Wrestling. What a surprise. So I was only familiar with this guy through magazines. And so through the magazines, I would learn about the feud that he had with, you know, Ted DiBiase, the feuds that he had with the one-man gang, you know, the fact that he was once a bad guy, the fact that he was once blinded in a match. I think some kind of a, I don't know what the agent was, but something was thrown into the eyes of Hacksaw Duggan and he was blinded. Or maybe it was a fireball. I don't know. It's all from memory from wrestling magazines. I never actually saw the angle. But when he came to the WWF, he was you know, used decently. I think in Mid-South and in UWF, he was believable as a champion, and in fact held a championship title, held titles in Mid-South, and it was believable. When he comes to the WWF, he's instantly given kind of a goofy gimmick with the 2x4 and the hoe and the, you know, USA thing, and that to me completely crushes his, you know, he just becomes a WWF character. But obviously, you know, made a ton more money than he would ever in Mid-South and UWF, which shortly ceased operations when he came, you know, after he came to the WWF. We're talking about the Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Now, before I get blasted with that's not the right 2x4, I'm telling you, this isn't the right 2x4. This is not the 2x4. What's a 2x4? This is not the 2x4 that came with the figure. That's gone. I, as an adult, have finally lost an accessory, and I've lost it years ago. And I'm not paying $50 or $60 for a replacement 2x4. So this is actually the, this is either the Jax Classic Superstar 2x4 or it's the Mattel 2x4. I'm pretty sure this is the Jax because it's huge. So this is the Jax Classic Superstars Hacksaw Duggan 2x4 that I use for him because I can't find mine. And the original was so much better. The original 2x4 is so much better than the one that I give him now. But, you know, whatever. It's okay. I had Duggan as a kid. I don't remember how I got him. I'm sure it was a mail order because I do not remember seeing Hacksaw Duggan in stores. One of these figures I did get in store, and I will show that to you. But this I believe was from mail order, and played with him a lot. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, great figure, great play pose, great little accessory there, and got some use. And he's not in that great of shape. He's okay. There's no paint wear on this guy. He's just kind of faded. There's kind of a weird faded face there. But the tough guy, the Hacksaw Jim Duggan, I actually met Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He was the first wrestler. He was the only wrestler that I've ever met with my kid. We met him. He came to Rochester, New York, had a very, 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 very small Comic-Con, like a Comic-Con mini, a year ago or so. And they brought in 2 guests. They brought in a Power Ranger, Power Ranger X. I mean, who the hell knows? And they brought in Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And I took my kid, and we went to this Comic-Con, and it took us about an hour to walk through the whole thing. But we, stood in a line of 10 to meet Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And because it was such a small turnout, he was super friendly and super talkative, and I think he always is. And it was awesome. It was fun. I've showed you the pictures a while back of me and Hacksaw doing the double choke on my boy. And so he wanted to take like 3 different pictures. Let's do the double choke on the kid, and then let's all do the thumbs up. We got an autographed 2x4 for the kid. It's proudly in his room. I had it addressed to Liam, which I think is pretty awesome. No, I think I did to Liam and Daddy. Which is just awesome. And it sits in his room, of course. And he sets his G.I. Joes up on it, so I don't know. But, yeah, good stuff. We actually talked very briefly about the WWF and Bill Watts and One Man Gang and all that fun. Terry Gordy we talked about. That was fun. And so met Hacksaw with the boy. Good time. Super, super nice guy. What else? Okay, so my man, Mr. Persky, from the chats, friend of the channel, Mr. Persky, a very, very, very frequent commenter, and a very good commenter. Good meat in his comments. Lots of fun reads coming from Mr. Persky. He asked if the '88 line, Series 5, is the worst of the line. Not for character by any means, not for character selection, but by look and by design and by this new thing that they were doing in '88, where they are using a different. They're using a non-flesh colored undercoating on these figures, right? So you look at all the other figures from all the other lines, and their paint color is skin color. That's their base coat, right? Or their base, if they're doing Ricky Steamboat's black pants, that's it. That's the color. There is nothing underneath the black pants except skin tone, I suppose. But for some reason, some unknown reason, and if I had interviewed that former LJN employee, this is one of the questions I'd have asked him, why did they start choosing other colors as the base coat for these figures? And so what would happen is, when Honky Tonk Man would take a punch to the face, his flesh color, his flesh tone face paint would come off, and underneath that, for some strange reason, was blue. Right? Because the majority of let's take a look. The majority of the Honky Tonk Man figure is blue, right? This blue outfit. But here's something crazy. When you scrape off the blue, it's flesh tone. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, let's see. There are a few scrapes. There are a few scrapes on this figure. Okay, you can see that. And so that tells me that underneath blue on the Honky Tonk Man, the blue jumpsuit is flesh. Then why on earth, underneath the face, is blue? I don't know. I don't get it. All the flesh color, the base coat is blue, but the base coat on the blue is flesh. What's going on there? They flipped it. They reversed it. So what would happen is that these figures would eventually look horrible. This one is actually decent. If you take a look at his face, he's only got some blue on the chip of his nose there, and he's got some blue on his fists, of course, because that's what and some blue on the boots, which again doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that? Why did they do that? It ruined the figures. So for that, yes, Mr. Persky, I do think that the '88 line is when LJN... Ready? I'm going to say it. The 88 line is when the LJNs jumped the shark. Yeah. Would I ever say anything negative about the greatest toy line of all time? Well, the 88 line began the downfall. Jumped the shark, if you will. So here is the Honky Tonk Man figure, a figure I never had, and a figure I don't like. And again, I think this is another one of the reasons why this series started to be the downfall of the LJNs. I'm reviewing him next time in the next episode, but Ted DiBiase. Ted DiBiase and Honky Tonk Man are two of my least favorite figures because they are in full gear. They are in full garb. And so it was really, it was really silly for a kid to wrestle the Honky Tonk Man, and he's got his full Elvis jumpsuit on. And there's been some pretty great customs of Honky Tonk Man in wrestling gear, and Ted DiBiase in wrestling gear, and that's how they should have been made. But there was both outfits for Honky Tonk Man and Ted DiBiase are so colorful and so influential that you almost have to include them, right? You can't make the Elvis impersonating Honky Tonk Man in just a pair of trunks or a pair of tights. But you could, right? Because you could put guitars all over the tights. You could put honky tonk or honky on the back, and you get them with the guitar. So it wasn't very necessary for these figures to be so strange and so much different than previous years. You got to wonder about the production team. You got to wonder about who's in charge of these things. Is the WWF and Vince McMahon saying this is how I want it to be, or is LJN going let's make him this way? So to me it's the downfall. So here's Honky Tonk Man, figure that I never owned, never had as a kid. And his guitar. Again, often lost guitar. There's some people, if you guys are in need of accessories, there's a Facebook LJN and customs group that I'm a part of. And there are some people who are making incredibly accurate LJN accessory replicas, right? So you can get a Honky Tonk Man guitar that actually looks like this. I don't know if it's 3D printing, I don't know what the deal is, but it's identical. They're perfect. They do hats, and they do the guitar, and they do nightsticks for the Big Boss Man. So very good stuff. I've never bought one, I haven't needed one, but from what I see, they look awesome. So here's Honky Tonk Man, his guitar. I never had him as a kid. Another figure that has been cursed by the 88 paint fiasco is the One Man Gang. Another figure that I got. So this is the figure that I got very, very late in my collecting and my playing time. This is one of the figures that I got out of that Toys R Us clearance bin, that $4.99 clearance bin. I got him with Slick, with Ken Patera, with Billy Jack Haynes, and I think one more that I can't remember, but also One Man Gang. And this is a great figure. This is a great figure. This is right before he started to transition into Akeem. It's because we saw Akeem in Series 1 of the Hasbros, which shortly followed the LJNs. So One Man Gang, again, another Mid-South UWF, just top-level guy. World's champion, former UWF world champion, comes to the WWF, and with the One Man Gang gimmick, he was still a tough guy, still a threat, but never reached the the status that he had in Mid-South and UWF. Never a real challenge to anybody, Hogan or Savage or Warrior. And I don't think Warrior was during the One Man Gang time, but never a threat to Hogan and Savage. Part of a tag team with the Big Boss Man later on when he was Akeem. feud with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, which of course only makes sense because they had a big feud in the UWF and in Mid-South. But again, this is another figure that for some reason his undercoat on the flesh is black. And it just destroys the figure. And it's almost impossible, unless you take him off the card, it's almost impossible to find a mint one-man gang that has not been touched up by somebody. And I just think that that's, such a waste, such a bad idea. I don't know why they did it. This one's tattoo has been rubbed off. But, still a pretty good figure. And again, if I played a little today, he might have a little bit of a role as this, this bruiser tough guy in my federation. I do wish that his pose was a little different. I wish his hands were down. I don't like this, these hands up in the air pose like this. I don't like these flexing poses. They make play a little difficult. But one-man gang figure, one of the last figures that I got in my childhood play. Another figure who is impacted by the poor painting of '88 is Bam Bigelow. He also has black undercoating, and you can see that on his knuckles. You can see that on his nose, which is usually, again, the first to chip. So I didn't have him either as a kid. And, again, this is another guy who had way more success. That's not true. When I say way more success, I mean, put into a more dominating role within the Federation. So when you have a smaller territorial federation, guys like One Man Gang, Hacksaw Duggan, Bam Bigelow can shine. I mean, they can be your champion. When you come to WWF and you sort of get lost in the circus, you're put into a role and you're making a whole heck of a lot of money, and you're a worldwide name now. But your role in the company is less, and it's different. So Bam Bigelow also, to me, falls into that category. Never a world title contender, never an intercontinental threat, never had a tag team partner to go after, the titles, but would get into some pretty good mid-card feuds. And I think he kind of broke out a little bit more when he went to the NWA in '87, 88. And actually won a title. He was the U.S. champion. Defeated Barry Windham. Had a great feud with Barry Windham and some great matches. And that's why I was more NWA during that time period. I really liked switching over and watching NWA. I really enjoyed, Barry Windham, Arn Anderson, Bigelow when he got there, Flair obviously. The Midnight Express. I was such a huge NWA fan as well as I got a little bit older. And that sounds like natural progression to me. I mean, you get a little bit older and you stop being interested in the cartoony stuff and you switch over to a little bit different style of wrestling. And so, I fluctuated between both. Tattoos on the head are decent. So, not a bad figure at all. Bam Bigelow. One of the great mysteries of the earth. Why was Demolition not created? Why did we only get one half? I'm sure that question has been answered by the former LJN employee. I never got to ask it because I didn't interview him. But, Axe, Demolition Ax, without Smash, to me is, this great unsolved mystery. No idea why. Some people have said because, Randy Cully was the first Smash and had some issues with WWF when he left, and so they couldn't. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows why they would make. And it wasn't like, Demolition teamed up every once in a while. That you could. I mean, that's all they did was team as Demolition. They were inseparable. There was no Axe going off and establishing himself as a singles competitor. it was Axe and Smash. You can't make one without the other. So I don't know why we don't have a Smash. Again, it's one of the great LJN mysteries, and but on its own, this is a good figure. I don't like the Jesse Ventura pose. That's what I call it. And I never had him as a kid. So, Axe did not get any play in my federation because I never had him. A little later, as a possibly an adult collector, I might have teamed him with Kamala. I don't know. I'm not sure. I might have played a little bit as an adult and teamed Axe with Kamala. Not sure. I could never really admit to that, but Demolition Ax, no Smash, decent figure, part of that 88 line. Now, last two figures for this video are sort of anniversary commemorative figures that they did. Hulk Hogan, obviously, is the, I would say, probably the first LJN that ever pops into anybody's head. I'm sure it was the first LJN that popped into LJN's head when it was time to start making these figures. And Hulk Hogan is the first name that we all think of when we think of the WWF. I mean, come on, just be honest. Hulk Hogan is one of the first names that we think of when we say professional wrestling. Period. Whether you liked him or not. It doesn't matter. He created this whole thing, So LJN released two special edition, anniversary, commemorative Hulk Hogan figures. And I hated them because I had been using the same Hulk Hogan figure my entire childhood, and he's perfect. And then you come out and you make these figures that are taller than the original Hulk Hogan. They're in these weird poses, and they've got t-shirts on. And I was never a fan of these. And I never had them. But we've got white shirt Hulk Hogan and red shirt Hulk Hogan. Both complete, as you can see here, with their World's Championship title. And on the shelf, these are beautiful figures. Okay, white shirt Hogan and red shirt Hogan sitting on my shelf are statues. They're just gorgeous, great-looking figures. But they never would have had a chance with me as a kid for play because these are not the Hulk Hogan figures that, the Hulk Hogan figure that pretty much defined my childhood. These are different. These are bigger. These are strange. There's clothes. I don't like them. Sitting on my shelf again, two of the best looking figures I have. Play? No, not happening. Funny story. I went to a birthday party when I was, probably 13 maybe. So 13 would have been 89. Yeah, maybe 13. And I went to the birthday party, and a kid, for some reason, randomly brought with him this figure, white shirt Hulk Hogan. I don't know why. Maybe you brought stuff to birthday parties. It wasn't a gift, and we weren't all sitting around playing wrestling figures. Trust me, I was the only one in that little friend group who, secretly in my mind was going to go home and couldn't wait to play with my toys. All these guys were playing football and doing 13-year-old boy stuff. And I'm sitting here going, man, I can't wait till this party's over because I got a match to have. But, so I don't know why this kid brought white shirt Hogan with him. But I had never seen it, and I was blown away by it. And I didn't know this kid, but I quickly, I wanted him to be, my friend, because I wanted to ask him if I could borrow this figure. And shockingly, a kid that never knew me, I had no connection to, he didn't go to my school, wasn't in my friend group, let me borrow white shirt Hogan. And we lived, far apart from each other. We lived 3 towns over. And as a kid, 3 towns over is, forget it. You got to take the train. You're never going to see this kid. So he let me borrow white shirt Hogan, and I had him for a whole summer. I had, and I eventually, like, you know, possession 9/10 of the law thing. I had just pretty much convinced myself that I was the proud new owner of this figure. And then one sad day, his mother somehow tracked us down. Somehow, through a friend of a friend of a friend, but called us up and said, "We'd like our figure back, please." And the kid came over, and I gave it to him in the car. You know, I handed it to him in the car window, and off they went. They drove off, and I never spoke to the kid again. Don't know him, can't remember him, don't know his name. But they came and repossessed Hulk Hogan White Shirt. He would have been mine as a kid, but he wasn't. He got taken back. So that's it. Part 5, or Series 5, Part 1. We'll be back with Series 5, Part 2. And then we're going to wrap it up with the 89s. Man, the black cards, and we'll cry a little as LJN goes under. And I'll look into a little bit where they went and why they went away and why they lost the license, and maybe I'll have some information from you that you could all probably just get off Wikipedia, but I know you want to hear it from me. So that's that. We'll see you again soon. Hope you're all doing safe. Until then, good night now.